everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 20 of Trigun. And the last episode, we had a very weird ending where one of Legato's men, just had a mannequin or a puppet that he was using to spy on Vash, and then it went back to him. Wolfwood and Vash are together. They went and basically kicked ass and took names. And then we've back up with Meryl and Milly. So it's been like the quad group, the square is back together, which is really exciting. I really liked the last episode, but now I'm super curious about this guy, like how is he connected to Legato. We have basically 7 episodes left at this point, so I feel like we need to face Legato before we face Knives. I feel like Legato needs to go first, and then we face Knives. But the question is, who even is Legato? That is the question, right? If we're assuming that the people on this planet are primarily the people from the spaceship that just, landed there, got out, woke up, and were like, oh, hey, we'll just cultivate this planet, no big deal. What are we supposed to do with that? And how does Legato tie into it? Because Legato doesn't seem to be on the same level as Knives and Vash, but he's been able to communicate telepathically with him. So how does that work? And he seems to be able to trigger Vash's, his power. So what's the deal with that? Is Legato, my theory is is Legato Knives' son, and that he had with a human, and that's just that. I don't know, right? I mean, Knives doesn't seem to like any humanity, so that seems kind of unlikely, but I don't know at this point, right? Legato Blue Summers. I don't know what his deal is, but I'm really, really curious. So yeah, but I don't know. I feel like we have to face Legato before we can face Knives. It's like the final boss or whatever. The question is, how are we going to do that? When are we going to do that? We seem to be able to need to get past this one guy who has the puppets before we can do that. So I'm assuming that's what this episode is about. But I want to take this moment to say that I know in the last episode I was kind of freaked out about spoilers. I'm still very unsure about them, but I thought about it, and I talked with the person that had shared the comment last episode, and they were like, I actually have never watched this series before. And I was like, I don't know. That's my one thing I always tell people. I have no idea because of my lack of psychic abilities. I am not Legato Blue Summers, unfortunately. But I can't tell if people are anime viewers or manga readers. And even if people tell me once, there are hundreds of people I talk to, so I don't remember, I can't keep track of who is a manga reader, who's an anime watcher, who's seen this, who hasn't seen this. So if people don't say it in the comments, I don't remember that. I'm doing good to remember all the characters' name in this show. So I did talk with them, and I felt bad because I was like, well, I'm sorry, I got kind of flustered about all of that, but I definitely want to be very cautious with spoilers for this last section, but I will probably be trying to. I hate to ask Patreon to check for me because I feel like it's making them go out of their way to do something that they shouldn't have to do. So I may just double check with them and be like, hey, can you just give a once over with the comments, make sure nothing's a giant spoiler somebody maybe forgot about or didn't realize. But I don't know if I'm going to be answering YouTube comments just because I want to be careful. I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to, my moderators have not seen the original Trigun. They've only seen Trigun Stampede. So I don't want to make them go and watch the series when I have 7 episodes left and just be trying to find spoilers for me. So I don't know. I'm going to play it all by ear. So I apologize if I don't answer your comment, but I'll get to it with Trigun Stampede. Don't you worry, because I'll actually have moderators for that one. But yeah, I did want to apologize. I just got kind of bummed out and freaked out with spoilers last episode, and so I'm in a much better headspace now about it. I also want to apologize because as I was editing the last episode, I remembered that I left my TV on during the reaction. So if you heard the Great British Bake Off during the reaction, I'm sorry. I thought it was off, and I always leave it on if I go outside the house. I leave it on for my dogs so that they have something to listen to. And I left it on when I came back in and didn't think 2 things about it, just to tell you the headspace I was in. So there was that. I like the idea that it was the Great British Baking Show playing while watching Trigun. Why not? So, but I'm excited. I hope you all are too. Again, at this point, I have no clue what's going to happen, and I'm just on board for the ride. So what can we do? But we're going to start this episode and just see what happens. And so we're going to start Trigun episode 20. I can't believe we're in episode 20 of Trigun. But we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, it's not raccoon out this time because I was like, well, we'll talk through this. I feel like there were some things revealed, but it wasn't enough to map out. The only thing that's curious about this is, like I said, Legato's place in all of this, because Legato seems like he's like, the thing that confuses me a little bit is that we have Vash the Stampede, we have Knives the homicidal mass murder, and then we have all of these gung-ho gang members who are name the thing. And so obviously Wolfwood being Chapel, I'm so glad they finally confirmed that. I was like, oh, thank God. They teased that this whole episode. They were like, his name, he said, I'm just saying he's Chapel because we know that he's Chapel. We've known he's been Chapel since episode like 14, and they finally confirm it. But Wolfwood does not want to be known as Chapel. So that begs the question of asking, one, does Vash know about the gang and its members? I don't think so. But then two, and so maybe he didn't want Vash to like hear the name Chapel and know. I mean, obviously Wolfwood doesn't want Vash to know that he was at one time associated with the gang. He definitely does not want that to be known. So it does beg the question of what caused Wolfwood to leave. And it seems kind of from what we've gathered in previous episodes that he had the kids at the church and everything. It seems like somehow the gang, either him being a part of the gang or something else, led to the murder of these children, and Wolfwood like took that personally and decided that, oh, maybe being in this gang is not the right way for me to go. And so he got out of it. And now that he's met Vash and sees someone like Vash who's constantly striving to go for peace, even when it leaves him scarred, even when it seems hopeless, it seems like he's kind of like a beacon to Wolfwood to say, oh, if he can do it, so can I, right? And I can afford to get scars on myself and afford to sacrifice like he has if it's for a worthy cause. Now, Wolfwood also is not as rose-colored glasses pacifist as Vash is. Wolfwood very much is like, it seems like this entire series, Wolfwood is in conflict because I'm sure that him being in the gung-ho gang at the time made sense. He's like, in order to survive in this world, you have to be strong. And if the gung-ho gang is strong, then it will enable me to survive and do the things that I want to do. And so that's why he was a part of it. But it seems like that part of Wolfwood that's like the logical, rational, I'm in this gang with these people for a reason, is in conflict with him saying, I want to protect these kids, even though that's not the logical thing to do. And so I feel like he's in constant conflict with it, and Vash just makes that conflict much more apparent. So it's interesting. Wolfwood's character is fascinating, and I want to go through him in this episode. But yeah, we just start out with the Typhoon Jacqueline, and that it's very understandable because it's been storming the last several weeks, and so I understand Meryl just like looking out. I like that Milly was going to put a tracker in Vash's food. Also, the Thomases just like come through the window. Like, what the hell? How are those girls even still alive? Like, what is even happening? I like that they immediately found the Thomases that came through the window and were like, let's just saddle them up and go get Vash and go out into the Typhoon. And then he says, don't come after me. Please don't look for me. Yeah. And I liked it. Meryl's immediate response is, damn it, he got away. Not, why does he keep telling us to leave? So it's good to know Vash has not given up on the idea of, I don't want to get Meryl and Milly hurt. Girls, stay over here. Let me go do this. At least Wolfwood has got a giant ass cross gun that he can fight with. And so I like that Milly was going to go to the odds of having Vash eat a tracking device. Girl is unashamed and ready for anything. But Vash just happened to see through it. And the transmitter. And I like that Meryl's like, I'm amazed that the insurance company let you have that. And she's like, well, it was a going away present from the chief. I goofed up so much, he said I should use any means not to be outwitted. And Meryl's like, that's not a compliment. That's actually not a good thing. And so then they check the tracking device and find that under the bed, the cats are eating the tracking device in the breakfast. Mm-hmm. And now there's a little baby cat. Now there's not only the black cat, there's a baby cat too. So they're growing. But usually when the cat shows up as a cameo at the beginning of the episode, it's not a good thing. Usually that means something bad's going to go down. So, and then Vash, before we get to that, we find out the idea of the little pod that him and Knives were in, like crash lands on this like red desert planet. It feels like Mars, right? When they go in. I feel like it's not actually red like that. Maybe it is, but to me it felt like it was just kind of symbolic, and it was just showing, instead of having it be sepia tone like a flashback or black and white, they made it red, which it just makes it, again, the idea of it being red goes along with the geranium and determination and the flower, and now his red coat makes all the sense. I want to like go grab and buy a fistful of geraniums and just plant them around my house now. I just want to do that. That's amazing. But then Knives being like, here, I'll help you. And he's like, we're like brothers, aren't we? It's almost like Knives doesn't want to acknowledge they are brothers. I don't know if that's a translation thing, because it showed them like with umbilical cords, like they were twins, like they were from the same place. But Vash just being like, you killed all of them. And then the moment that like Knives' face changes and like he looks real innocent, and then when Vash is like, you killed them all, and he's like, yes, it was superb and colorful. I'm like, oh no. No, Knives went off the psychopathic, homicidal deep end. He can't be trusted anymore. He's gone crazy. And again, it's just exactly like the commenter said the last episode. He basically has decided he's going to go around and kill all of them until it's just him and Vash on the planet together. It's just that's his goal now. He's going to destroy everyone. And it's really sad because Vash is like, why can't we just let them be here? And she's like, you have to take care of Knives. And Vash is like, I have to face him. I like that he says I have to face him. Not I have to destroy him. Not that I have to kill him. But I need to face him. And then go from there. So I like that Vash is still, despite everything, has that kind of pacifist, like, I'm not going to kill him unless I have to. I don't want to. But I'm going to try everything I can to not get to that point, right? Where that's a thing that's required. And so, yeah, so then I like that he says at Southeast at 1:22 p.m. you can catch the ankle of Jacqueline. So I like that apparently to get up to the spaceship, it's like a special video game requirement. In order to get up to the spaceship, you have to jump off and hit a typhoon at the right time, and it will launch you up like a video game to the top of the ship. I like that. It's cool, it's fun, it's quirky. And I love the ship is just floating there. It's like a cool little sci-fi thing. It's neat that it's this little floating colony in the sky. And then I love that Wolfwood is like on board the ship being like, I'm following you, but I don't know what we're doing. Like, what kind of crazy person like sobs last episode trying to save people and then jumps off a cliff? He's like, you don't make any sense. And Vash is like, I'm sorry. He's like, what are you after? I'm visiting the folks. He's like, come again, I'm visiting the folks. And it's not his real parents, but it's people from the ship. Yep. It's a ship that failed to crash. Now, he says 10 years ago in the subtitle. I think they meant 100 years ago. Because he says it's been 20 years since he's been there. So I think it was supposed to be 100 years ago it failed to crash. It's just floating in the gravitational orbit of the planet. And so he's like, they haven't seen a house guest in 20 years. Mm-hmm. But those damn condors! I thought they were just like a freaky bird like the Thomases or like an alien species on the planet. No, they were that guys. The fact that they kind of look like mannequins should have been a dead giveaway, but they're just the freakiest things, right? And they've been keeping watch on this ship. And he says, Mr. Legato, he's made his move. And then he says he appears to be working with a minister clad in black. And then we see this weird, like, mannequin looking at Legato. So I'm like, is that part of the Leonoff guy too? Or what? It's creepy. The giant eye with it is creepy. I suspect this man is. He's like, even if he is, your task doesn't change. So I'm like, what the hell? Like, who is Legato? What's the deal? And he says, you're such a fool. Had you behaved, you might have lived to see doomsday. Like, what is the deal with this? For now, I can fulfill another of my master's wishes. So Legato's clearly working for Knives, right? He's clearly working for Knives. The question is, who is he? How did Knives get hooked up with him? Why is he dressed like a Final Fantasy villain? Like, what is Legato's deal? I want to know. And then we have this guy that's been patrolling along with Brad. Brad has the 1990s anime pompadour, which is fun. And then I love that we come out and Wolfwood's like got bashed in like a leg lock. It's great. I love Wolfwood's like, what do you mean I can't come in? I like it. And Vash was probably like, well, they won't let outsiders in. And Wolfwood's like, to hell with that. I'm not sitting up on this ship. Although, the sad thing is, if he had, he probably could have detected the condors coming in. But then they wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. There's a lot of Neon Genesis references in this episode. When they're descending into the ship, it felt like Neon Genesis, where they're descending into Nerve. And then the whole thing with the class president of the high school, like her making the food, felt like the girl in Neon Genesis, class president, Jessica in the comparisons. The one animation thing that's weird is Wolfwood like looking over at Vash and smiling. It's a weird animation choice. I'm not sure if I understand it. He's like, I'm not sure of that myself. He's like, but don't bring outsiders here. And then we meet Jessica, who has loved Vash since she was a little kid. Don't blame her. He's great. But poor Brad. Brad's like, this guy's like hundreds of years old and you can't give me the time of day. And Wolfwood's like, girl, you wasting your time. That's really great, right? And Vash just like lets her off easy, right? And Wolfwood, teases her, being like, oh, you got a girlfriend, Vash, even though Wolfwood very well knows that he does not. And he's like, I have to talk to the doctor. So the doctor on the ship, yeah. And he's like, he hasn't taken an eye off those forecast charts. Yeah, watching the typhoon to see when Vash would come, right? So the ship has this mentality that everyone down below on the planet are these warring outsiders. And Wolfwood's kind of, Wolfwood immediately has this like attitude against them, being like, oh, well, you're rather condescending for us. Yeah, it's warring outside because people are actively trying to kill us all the time. And we're on a desert planet that can't sustain us. Cool. Like, I just immediately know Wolfwood does not like Brad and his mentality about it. And he's like, and Wolfwood points out, he's like, hey, things are great here on this ship now. What happens when your ship doesn't work anymore? What happens if something happens, you have to go down onto the planet? What are you going to do then? Are you going to be able to survive? And so Wolfwood very much has this mentality. I feel like he's very much in conflict because Vash is trying to propose peace and love and peace. And Wolfwood's like, that's great and all, but let's be realistic. What happens if that doesn't work out? Or what happens if against natural disaster? Or what about this? Like, Wolfwood's trying to be pragmatic and say, like, you need to be prepared for when this doesn't work out. But then he's also kind of on board with love and peace, so, or at least he's getting there, right? He's getting there. And so then Meryl and Milly, meanwhile, are like, we're going to go out into the typhoon. Bless them. I hope they're okay after this episode. I also feel like Wolfwood's smoking the entire time. A lot of people are like, and he's kind of like, this is this little mini paradise, this city cradled in lost technology. He's like, but it hasn't lasted on our planet all this time. It very well couldn't for them. And the people are kind of like, oh, we've well maintained it. We're fine. And the little kid, like, throwing the rock at Wolfwood just shows that Wolfwood kind of brings up this point. He's like, you guys are just as capable of being warring and violent as we are down on the planet. Don't think you're better than us. He's like, the people down on the planet are the same as you. They just didn't luck out and have this oasis in the sky. They're down on the planet having to survive, but they are no different than you. And you all are just as capable of being violent as they are. So he's like, don't act like you're high and mighty and better than us. This is like a ticking time bomb up here. Is it sustainable or not? And they've been trying to like hide their presence from the rest of the planet. So there is a question, and I don't know if the manga will answer this. I don't want to know right now. We'll wait till the end of the series. But there is a question I'm wondering of how, like, obviously Knives has been destroying technology as he goes to like seemingly limit them. But has anything with the sky triggered that? Like, do they not want people to figure out where they are so they won't come up and see them? And Wolfwood calls them out on their cozy little lives, saying, you guys are ignoring the people down below who are dealing with some real problems, right? And the thing about it is, it's not these people's problem to deal with them, but they shouldn't be condescending at the same time. And Wolfwood kind of calls them out on it, being like, you guys just got lucky. Like, your luck may run out and the shoe will be on the other foot, and you'll be trying to rely on the people that you were condescending towards. And then what do we do with that? So yeah, I like Wolfwood. I like seeing Wolfwood's like mode of thinking and his ideology throughout this, because it's from a very realistic approach. But that's why he's so in conflict with Vash and why he finds him fascinating, because he's like, here's a guy that's a walking contradiction. He's a guy that carries a gun but doesn't kill anyone. He's covered up in scars, but he's never hurt anybody. He causes destruction wherever he goes, but yet no one dies because of him. And so it's like, it's just, he's so fascinated with Vash, and how could you not be? And so then we come back to the Doctor and Vash, and they say that he's been out of touch for 5 years. Whatever's been happening within those 5 years. And they know about knives. They know about knives, and they know about Vash's quest to find him. He's like, it's probably, and that's when Brad says 5 years is probably the blink of an eye to you. And the crazy thing about it is that Vash looks kind of like, he looks upset there because the guy's like, oh, are we going to call this guy a person? And Vash argued with Knives, being like, you're not being human. And Knives is like, no, because we're not human. So it's such an interesting thing to see Vash call Knives out for not being human, and then the humans call Vash out for not being human. So it's really sad. But so they know that Knives has been tracked down by Vash all this time, that Vash has been on a quest to find Knives again for a very long time. And they know about the July incident. They have satellites. They can look down on the planet. That doesn't seem to be a thing. The Doctor seems like he's old, so he's been doing it for a while. And they ask if he used the gun that was used in the July incident. And he says yes, but he doesn't know how he was doing it. And that's when Brad says, if you destroy July and the moon incident, that makes you more violent than Knives, right? And Vash is like, yeah, it might be the case. He's not trying to be, but it might be the case. So that's fascinating too, right? That's so interesting to me. And then the Doctor's like, leave him alone. And he says, to ordinary people, I must seem like a monster. And the Doctor says, look, that's only half of it. Yeah, Brad's kind of scared of you. You freak him out because you're literally immortal. But you also, he loves Jessica, and she has a crush on you. So that's the other half of it. So it's really, I like the Doctor kind of smooths it over and is like, it's not really your fault. You just don't know the full story, right? And then he pulls out the case. And so there is, I love that this show, whenever it shows us tech and stuff, it doesn't show us, it's all like blurry, like it doesn't want you to see fully. And then he's like, this is the arm you wanted, right? And it's not a gun arm. It's just a literal arm. Now the question is, how did Vash lose his other arm, right? How did he lose it? How did he lose the one arm? Maybe the manga will tell us, but I was like, how did he lose that arm? And I like that he wants an arm that's not a gun. Look at him. Now, the gift and present thing, the moment we saw the hand through the grater, I was like, oh my God. But then we saw the present have the word kill on it, and it was in like Knives' handwriting. I was like, what is happening? And then Wolfwood sees that the people have gotten inside the home and started killing everyone there, which is terrifying. It's like they're killing them all from the inside. I like that, again, we have this moment. What's so fascinating is we have this moment where Rim is up against the guy. Rim is up against the guy that, when Rim was up against the one guy that killed the girl that he liked and put Steve in prison, she was up against the gun and didn't flinch. And now Wolfwood's in the same position. I don't think Wolfwood can be related to Rim. I don't think, because she died, right? I don't think that's the case. I don't think she could be related. She talked about having the guy that she liked, but I don't think that's the case, unless he's like a cousin to her. If he ended up being related to Rim, that'd be fascinating, but I don't think that's the case. I think he just kind of embodies that same willpower that Rim did of, no, I'm not backing down. And maybe that's why Vash is kind of like magnetized towards him, because he has that same type of dynamic determinism that Rim had and got him invested in. But I love that Wolfwood is determined to not kill anyone or fight back unless he absolutely has to. And I think that's an influence of Vash, right? And so then we have this showdown, and he's like, Wolfwood's like, it wasn't me. Are you really going to fight me? And that's when all these people, like all the people get killed in the hallway, and their like skin is already turning gray. I'm like, what the heck, show? It's like Dawn of the Dead out here. And that's when he sees the dummy, Leonoff, I presume. I'm honored you know my name. And that's when he gets into it. He was like, we've never met before, but I've heard of you. And he says, the man who rings the black funeral bell. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And he says, chapel the. And then stops it, right? Ah! And he's like, chapel Then he's like, don't say it, you doll fetishist. So whatever the name is, Wolfwood doesn't like it, right? Nicholas D. Wolfwood does not like it. Now the question is Nicholas D. Wolfwood his real name, or is Chapel his name? He says Chapel the, and we don't find out. But I'm like, he went from being a mortician and a coroner to being a priest. From being a coroner to a priest. From being an undertaker to a priest. Interesting. Okay. And then he fires off against the mannequin, Leonoff, but then he comes back in. He reminds me of, you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of a creature from Labyrinth. He reminds me of a combination of the old man that had the bird hanging over his shoulder in Labyrinth that was trying to give Sarah directions. He reminds me of a combination of that and the two guys that were above the car doors that had the mustaches. He reminds me of a combination of those. He looks like a creature from Labyrinth, basically. And his character design is just freaky. But he has Jessica in his grasp. I'm glad he didn't just kill Jessica. Glad that was the case, right? So then we have this really interesting moment with Wolfwood, where Wolfwood's like, look, right now he's giving us two options. Either you kill me or she dies. But there is a third option. The third option is that, well, he says we could just let her die and then we both survive. We're the ones with the guns. We're the ones that can do anything. If we just let her die, that solves our problem. But what Wolfwood is suggesting, and I don't think Wolfwood was ever considering that, but he's phrasing it to Brad to kind of be like, look, yeah, we could do that. That's the heartless way, and that's the inhuman way. But there's some guy out here that's fighting for this third option where we save her and we fight back without hurting ourselves. And maybe we end up scarred from the head to toe. Maybe we end up being tortured, but that's the way that we can get peace. And I love that. I love how Wolfwood phrases it, though, because Brad's like not about this at all. And he's like, Brad, loves Jessica. He's not going to shoot her. And then Wolfwood's like, shut up. I know a guy who whines and cries until he finds a way to save everyone. Wolfwood's like, we shouldn't like this guy. He whines and cries all the time, but it's to find a way to save everyone. A man who takes a stand, though it scars him from head to toe. And he's right there. And then, I love that Wolfwood can sense him. I'm like, yes, please. It should be a sign this whole time that Wolfwood was sensing him, that he's been strong from the get-go. But again, my whole thing with the Gung Ho Gang is like, are they humans that like have had an evolutionary edge? Are they humans that are related to knives and thus related to Vash? Like, what is the case here? Like, what is the deal? Have they, did they use like some technology on the ship to like biologically enhance themselves? Or are they just, have humans evolved at this point in the story that some of them just had extra abilities like this? I don't know. I want to know more about Legato and the Gung Ho Gang and how we got to this point, right? And then Vash shows up. Yep, I love it. And he got the red coat and everything. And that's when Rim talks about the geranium. That they're used to describe love, but it also means they have determination. And it's perfect. I love that it fits Vash so well. The red coat, his determination to fight for peace and love. I love it. It's so fitting. It's so symbolic. It's perfect. And the flaps of the coat look like petals of a geranium now that you see it. I just want to go out and buy a bunch of geraniums. I feel like geraniums are hardy, right? Are geraniums hardy plants? I feel like they're either hardy or really frail, but I feel like they're hardy, like they grow in anything. And that's when, like, you think the day is saved. Like, Jessica's fine, Brad's fine, you think the day is saved, and then that's when Leonoff is like, oh, you think we just came one at a time like we have been doing? No, there's three. It was just one at a time. Then there was Ray Day and Jien, and now there's three of them. It's Leonoff, and then there's like two other quote-unquote demons that have come. I mean, I guess four if you count Chapel in this. But we have this juggernaut-looking guy, and then we have this thing that looks like a drill. What the hell? This is your big comeback celebration. Meanwhile, Meryl and Milly are struggling to hang on for dear life. So yeah, man, that episode went by so quickly, and it's a two-parter. So of course we have next week to get the second part of it. I mean, I feel like they're going to get out of this situation because they have to go find Legato. But now I'm curious to be like, what information are they going to get in the meantime moving forward? So what do we do with that? But yeah, in the meantime, I'm really excited. I'm going to try to screen for comments. I'm going to try to be very careful. But if you have this just very pending comment that needs to happen, I'll probably see if somebody on Patreon can like screen it and make sure there's no spoilers in it. But I'm super excited for the next episode. I probably won't wait very long to watch it because I want to see what's going to happen. But yeah, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with episode 21 of Trigun.